investigating the rear of the speed control on my car. It has a setting off, RAM, fan 1, fan 2. What that actually physically corresponds to is off, low speed, medium speed, high speed. So low speed, medium speed, high speed. At the back, the connections look like this. That's green and blue, and that goes to the air conditioning compressor. This one is green and slate, and that goes to the resistors, and that's medium speed. This one here is green and pink, and that's the RAM air setting, and that's on slow. This one here is green and yellow, and that is the high speed. And then finally that's the brown and blue, which comes from the relay and is the power in to this speed control. Also on the speed control is 2 vacuum pipes. One comes from the other mixture control where the vacuum is, and then the other pipe leads back to the mixture control, and that controls the fresh air flap, so that when the speed controller is on off, then the fresh air flap will be closed and no fresh air can come in from the grille under the windscreen. Behind the glove box is this flap here, and that's the fan immediately behind the flap. Above that flap is what they call the fresh air flap, this one here. And that's as far back as it will go. There's a gap behind here, probably about an inch. There are only 2 times it's closed. In the cold position on the mixture control, even with the fans going, and that's because the car assumes that you've got your air conditioning on and you will want it as cold as possible. So in the cold position, it's recycled air only. As soon as you move to the cool position and beyond any of those other settings, all the way around to defrost, then that fresh air flap will be open, and it'll also be closed in the off position using the speed controller. The fan is currently off. If I turn the fan from off, and that flap closes. Turn to off, and the flap opens. So in the off position, it shuts off on the other side of this flap, the opening to the fresh air grille that's at the base of the window outside. That's the operation of that flap. As regards this here, no matter what the setting is, if the fan is operating, whether this is open or closed, currently it's open, allowing fresh air from the grille to come into the car. This flap rises up and I'm drawing air as well from the interior of the car. You also, of course, have these 4 what I thought were fresh air vents. They're cold air vents. And reading the manual carefully, it says that a blower motor is mounted on the front bulkhead and it draws ambient air through the scuttle intake on minimum air conditioning and recirculating air through the grille on the passenger side of the fascia. On full air conditioning, the air is cooled by passing through the evaporator unit and is then expelled through lues in the car interior. I think what it comes down to is I thought those vents provided fresh air from outside. So without the air conditioning on, I could get cool ambient air blowing through those fresh air vents. That's not the case. I think they anticipate you will always have the air conditioning on. I don't have air conditioning at the moment. Without air conditioning, all you're ever going to get is a mixture of cabin air and some air from that scuttle. So it's always going to be warm if your car's warm inside. The only way I can see of you getting cold air, not necessarily fresh air, but cold mixed air, is with air conditioning on. Maybe, just maybe, if I disconnected the wire that makes the ram air operate as a low fan, I could get fresh ram air through the scuttle. Or maybe if I blocked off entirely that big flap behind the glove box, maybe then I could get fresh air through the scuttle. But at the end of the day, this car anticipates you will have a functioning air conditioning unit to get cold air, not necessarily fresh air, coming out of the system.